Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime. We will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea. That's what the United Nations is all about.
It's Friday, September 22nd, 2017. Welcome to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. I am Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press, and I am on it today. Each week I talk to our Capitol muckraker-in-chief, Sean Kitchen, about the good, the bad, and the ugly in state and national politics. On this week's show, Hurricane Maria made landfall in Puerto Rico as a Category 5 storm. This marks the fourth major hurricane in a month to ravage the Caribbean and Gulf Coast. Shock doctrine opportunists salivate. Trump threatens to wipe North Korea off the face of the earth. Subsequent exchanges between Trump and Kim Jong have bordered on the surreal. I have to admit, I had to look up the word dotard. Paul Manafort is in Mueller's crosshairs, and Jimmy Kimmel is on fire. Police in St. Louis chant, "Whose streets? Our streets," in a frightening exhibition of the decline towards authoritarianism. And Kutztown University administration ordered to kick an adjunct faculty to the curb ahead of life-saving surgery. How's that for a caring community? Just following orders, I guess. PA State Representative Aaron Bernstein thinks it's a good idea to run over protesters if they're standing in the road. Even some of his fellow Republicans are beginning to get uncomfortable with him. And I think they're also beginning to wonder what's in the water up there. Because you know who's right next door to him. Daryl Metcalf. Confronted on it, Bernstein doubles down by calling protesters thugs. And Sean dons the flaming sword of the interwebs in response. Still no budget in PA. How long will it be before the next credit downgrade? Tick-tock. Millersville University's mental gymnastics department attempts to respond to white nationalist posters on its campus. Ibbity, that's all, folks, was what we heard. We get into the background and tactics of Identity Europa and other alt-right groups. And Star Trek Discovery finally premieres Sunday night on CBS. And according to Rolling Stone, this is all the more reason to watch this premiere, folks. According to Rolling Stone, Discovery is Star Trek's answer to the Trump era. Get on board. And Pizza Boy had a big beer week. Lots of releases that Sean's going to walk us through. And I got my new shipment of Binic Biotech brews, and I'll take you through that. So a reminder to tune in the Rick Smith Show on Free Speech TV this and every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can stream the show live at freespeech.org, or you can tune in on Dish Network, DirecTV, or with the Free Speech TV app on Roku. And if you missed the show, no worries. Go to ricksmithshow.com and click on the Free Speech TV icon in the sidebar. And yes, people, once again, I'm going to ask you for this one, because we need you. We need you to help keep Pull No Punches progressive media going strong. You can become a member of Raging Chicken for as little as $5 a month. Simply go to ragingchickenpress.org and look for the support and membership tab. Click Become a Member and you're on your way. Not ready to become a member? No problem. You can make a one-time donation by clicking Donate. And if you've been following our work this week, both between Sean's reporting and my reporting, some other stuff that we've got up, this is a perfect example of why we need to support Raging Chicken Press and progressive media in this state to continue this work and deepen our reach. And right now, as an extra incentive, we got a back-to-school special going on. It's actually going to go through October. So if you join now through the end of October at the $10 a month level, we'll send you a copy of Mark Bray's new book, Antifa, the Anti-Fascist Handbook. So just become a member today. And look, if you don't want the book, no problem. We'll send you an official Raging Chicken Press Stay Woke coffee mug instead. We'll also send you a bunch of swag, too, as well. We got some stickers and some other stuff like that. So consider becoming a member today for as little as $5 a month. So Sean, man, we're like an hour late getting started today because of like just the
bantering that was just going on back and forth.
Oh my God! I mean, what else are you going to do? You know what I mean? I mean, it's like it's been that kind of week, and I mean, I'm just freaking livid, right? And I have been since Tuesday, right? And then you've been back and forth, like with Millersville University, kind of trying to figure out what the heck's going on there, and then
slaying some right wing legislative trolls on Twitter.
Yeah,
also tweeting from the confines of their local bar stool at 12:30 on a Saturday morning.
Oh man, I can't even tell you. Well, let's clear the table of some of the stuff, of some of the preliminary stuff before we get to some of the things that we want to dig in. We're going to do it. We're going to kind of come at this a little bit differently today. We're going to take some time, and especially in the second segment today, we're going to dig into some of the kind of white nationalist work and the recruitment tactics and strategies and things like this. And I also want to talk a little bit about what happened at Kutztown University this week. And of course, that's where I teach. But more importantly, it's just, in my mind, it's a soul darkening moment in the university's history. So I mean, it's so we'll get into that. But I mean, I just want to start off with a recognition of thoughts are going out to the folks in Puerto Rico after they got slammed with a Category 5 storm. And I don't know.
I mean, they just took a direct hit.
It was unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen the pictures that are coming out from this?
Yeah, I mean, this is the third or fourth podcast in a row now. We're leading off by talking about climate change and these monstrous hurricanes just wreaking havoc in the Caribbean and the Gulf. I mean, I don't remember, this is now like 3 or 4 hurricanes in a row that were a Category 4, Category 5 storm.
Yeah.
And absolutely just devastating, just a devastating hurricane, which was, it's ridiculous because, where do we begin with this? Really, if you want to begin with this, I recommend you listening to last week's Chapo Trap House with Naomi Klein. She talks about shock doctrine, economics, and what's happened. And this was before Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico. But, this is another island that's just wiped off the map, pretty much.
Yeah, no, exactly. And if people remember, I mean, think about this: the entire island of Puerto Rico was without electricity, right? The hurricane knocked out.
And most of the island's going to be without electricity for 4 to 7 months now. I was reading this morning. Yep. It's going to be. I mean, they're in complete infrastructural crisis mode.
No,
right
and you
now.
Look at what happened in U.S. Virgin Islands, and the same thing here. Like when you had Irma went through, not Irma, right? When Hurricane Irma went through, right? Two of the three main islands in the U.S. Virgin Islands were just devastated. But St. Croix was spared like the worst of it, and it became a staging ground for relief efforts. This round, Maria went right through and hit directly on St. Croix, right? So, I mean, and this was the story that you kind of people have been following this closely, that those places that has been serving as refuges for for people who were devastated by Hurricane Irma, those just got knocked out. Right, and it was a similar kind of stuff that we see. It was one after the other.
And you look at it.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Like Houston acted as a staging ground for refugees from New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina hit. And when we were on the civil rights tour through the South a few years ago with the Rick Smith Show, we took like a 3-day break in New Orleans. We visited the Lower Ninth Ward. We had one of the locals there take us around, show us how high the devastation was, how high the flooding was in that part of New Orleans and the surrounding suburbs in those parishes. And, most of those houses, a good number of those houses are still empty, vacant lots with grass growing on them. And a lot of those people stayed in Houston and stayed in the surrounding areas once Katrina just devastated the city. Yeah. And then they had Harvey again uproot their lives.
It's incredible.
We are all refugees in a climate crisis right now. 2/3 of the 2/3 or 3/4 of the world's population lives within, 30, 40 miles of all the coastlines. All of our major cities are, we are all potentially refugees in the climate crisis.
Well, you know what? I mean, I go back to Naomi Klein's talk on Chapo Trap House this week. I mean, one of the things that we should remember is that, I get the sentiment, right, that you're saying there, but not all of us, right, are gonna have the worst of it. Is that one of the things that Klein said, which I totally agree with, is that if you look at the, again, that top 1%, right, the people and the top 1/10 of 1%, those people are already making plans, survival plans for the worst of it. Those people are going to be fine. It's the rest of us that are going to have to bear the brunt of this. The rest of us that don't have private compounds on mountain ranges that they own, with their own water supplies in kind of like spent aquifers, we're the ones who are going to take the full brunt of this and are going to be living in the toxic sludge of what's left behind. So, I mean, this is...
and this is the dystopic future in a world with climate change. We have hurricanes wiping islands completely off the map. Maria went from a Category 1 to a Category 5 hurricane in a matter of 24 hours.
It was crazy.
I mean, think about that.
Yep.
It went from a 1 to a Category 5 hurricane, and it wasn't like Hurricane Andrew, like a small Category 5 that took shape real quickly. No, this thing ballooned into a monster that was like the size of Florida.
Yep.
Larger than some of our states. The size of Pennsylvania almost. I mean. And it went directly right over the middle of Puerto Rico.
It's crazy, and I think when you've got that kind of warm water that's there, that's only going to increase in temperature. That's again what provides the fuel for these storms. And to see, I can't remember any time in my life to see such a rapid succession of storms. I mean, look at Harvey hit on August 17th, I believe, and now here we are, just a little bit more than a month later.
5 weeks.
Yeah, and we're seeing this, and I thought, and the Maria, frankly, Maria is the one that shocked me, right, the most, right, just in terms of like, holy crap, for the reasons that you just said. I mean, we saw Irma coming, and it was the strongest storm that they had ever been.
It was just marching through the Atlantic.
Yeah, it was like this.
It was just
monster, right? And then you had, Jose came through, and then kind of ran over some of the islands, but then kind of went out to sea. But again, that was a fairly strong. It was a Category 3, I think. I don't know if it ever got to a 4, but a 3 or 4, right? But Maria, it was like, I remember watching this, looking at forum and say, we have a watch out, for a tropical storm watch. And then like the next, I don't know, either later that day or the next day, whatever it was, like suddenly it's this, Category 1, Category 2 storm. And then by the time, in a day, there it goes, Category 5. That does not bode well. And I think the stories that you laid out about, the refugees from Katrina going to Houston and then having to experience this all over again, right? That is going to be increasingly a common narrative. We got to get a handle on this.
And, one of the things that I still think about, 8 or 9 years ago, it was Kutztown, my first semester becoming a science major, or second semester actually, because it was the winter time. I think we had 3 20-inch snowstorms within the matter of 2 weeks.
Yep.
And, it's like, this part of the country where we're at, getting 1 20-inch snowstorm is sort of abnormal. That's like a once every 5 or 10 year type of storm. You don't get that on a daily basis. But we got 2 or 3 of them within a matter of short order of a month. And it's not only are the summer storms getting more intense, where we're at, we're right off the ocean pretty much in the northeastern part of the United States. With all those nor'easters that have come through, those are also fueling winter storms. Those warmer water bodies. Those nor'easters that come up the coast in the wintertime are feeding off the warmer water, the energy given off. Yes. So if you look at it, the hottest months of the year are typically July and August. Mm-hmm. It's when the sun's. Then the heat coming off the ocean, the hottest months for the ocean are typically September, August, and September, because that's when that's when the heat starts to be. That's when the oceans start to give off their heat. They start to the energy starts getting transferred. That's when you get the warmest. It's sort of like the diurnal, your daily temperatures, between 3 and 5 are the hottest. Sun, the most direct heat, and then the heat is given off by the Earth's surface, and that's between 5 and 7, right? Usually that energy transfer of the day. This is what's happening here, and more energy is being given off in the wintertime, because it's always warmer by the coast, on the oceans, by the water, it's always warmer in the winter months. And that heat is just coming off and it's fueling these storms that we're seeing in the wintertime. So not only are we going to be facing these type of storms in the summertime, but we're going to be facing crippling winter blizzards like this during the winter months. I mean, like for the past 2 years now, we've had 24-inch, 20-inch snowstorms. You know, it's like a daily thing. It's a yearly thing. Okay, we're going to get hit by this like once in a 10, 20-year storm because of our climate being changed. Obviously, it's not on the same scale as any of these hurricanes, but these are the type of things we're going to be experiencing up here locally.
No, that's right. And I think that, as dystopic as this looks to me, right? I mean, I really, get concerned about whether we're going to be able to do anything, significant here. But, Naomi Klein, again, to go back to that interview, is like, I think she's got it right, is that, this also presents unique kind of possibilities here because it's like, it seems like now, right? And
this just destroyed Puerto Rico's infrastructure.
Well, yeah,
the country was crippling in debt.
Absolutely, but I think that the fact that Trump is in office right now, that these things are going on, puts a different kind of there's a different kind of possibility of the ability to connect all this stuff at once, because it's all, I mean, it's like a shit show everywhere. You know what I mean? And the response to here, but it also says, look, we need bold action. We need aggressive action. We need aggressive.
And this is coming the weeks after NOAA or the EPA or NASA is getting rid of their climate programs.
Right. Exactly. Crazy, man. Well, so they got that on the one hand, you got the natural disaster on there, and then you got Trump basically kind of threatening a kind of man-made disaster. Well, because they're both actually man-made disasters, but a man-made disaster over there, kind of like getting into it with like, like these, the threats to wipe North Korea off the face of the planet. I mean, did you see his UN speech?
I did not see the UN speech.
It blew my mind. I was like, did he just say that? Did he just say that?
It makes like George Bush's speech in front of the UN look intelligent.
No, exactly. But he just said, he starts off his speech with like, North Korea and Venezuela have violated sovereignty and blah, blah, blah. And then in the next breath, so we're going to wipe North Korea off the face of the planet. Right? It's like, what? Wait. You just said North Korea or the other places are violating sovereignty, so your solution is to eliminate the sovereignty. and
Mueller's response is just like digging his head into his palms.
Right.
It's like the Star Trek. It's like Star Trek when the guy just puts his like.
Yeah. It is. It's Picard, right? Jean-Luc Picard. I mean, kind of like, oh my God, number one. I don't know what we're gonna do. But the craziest thing is that Nikki Haley, right? She's the ambassador of the UN. Nikki Haley, in an interview afterwards, she basically says this. People are like, well, was it really appropriate to call the leader of North Korea Rocket Man at the UN, right? And then threatened to gonna blow him up, right? And she was like, oh yeah, but you see, it worked because people are talking about him now. I'm like. What is this? Is this like high school?
Press good press.
Yeah, like, people are talking about him behind his back now. I'm like, really? This is the status of our international relations right now? Is like we've been reduced to kind of like Mean Girls? We're playing Mean Girls with the freaking nuclear codes right now? Holy crap.
It's like this, we're on like a week-by-week basis.
Yeah, exactly.
I think nuclear
still
clock,
here.
I think it's time to put the nuclear clock to like 11:59, 59 seconds.
Dude, all I'm saying, man, is there's got to be somebody with a sane head on their shoulders has got to like, I don't know, give Trump like, I don't know, some sleepy time tea and swap out the fucking briefcase, like, because like, it's like, let him, give him like the Fisher Price, like, nuclear code box where he can go and push all the buttons and they'll ring little bells and everything, make him feel good, right? Exactly. But, come on. I mean, this is crazy. And then, have you followed the back and forth between Trump and Kim Jong Un since then?
No, but I really feel like that Kim Jong Un should start like his own Twitter account, because like them just like lobbing nukes at each other over Twitter would be like the best thing possible. Like, it's like really sad when the dictator of North Korea has more restraint than the leader of the free world.
Oh my God, yeah. And but he and Kim Jong Un basically and he called Trump a dotard. Have you ever heard that before? A dotard?
I have not. What is a dotard?
I had to look it up. I was like, that's a great word, but I have no idea what the heck it is, and I can't believe it's being said. So here it is. This is according to dictionary.com. It's like a person, especially an old person, exhibiting a decline in mental faculties, a weak-minded or foolish old person. Right. So this is what's going on. This is the status, right, of what's actually getting reported on, because this and then Trump says something absolutely obnoxious back to him via Twitter. I'm like, oh my God! If we could just kind of almost do like a Photoshop of these people, just kind of clip them out of the scene and put them in their own frame, and then lock that box, that'd be great.
South Park couldn't write a better script than this.
No, exactly. I mean, it's just nuts, man. It's just nuts. So there you have that, and then we've got Paul Manafort. Right? It looks like the Mueller's putting the screws in right now. He's got him in the crosshairs.
And what about I was following that and with Manafort. So they picked his lock to get into his apartment or his house or whatever. And Manafort didn't even know that they were there until they were at his bedroom door.
Yep.
What does that tell you? The first thing when I heard that, I was like, man, they thought he was going to be destroying evidence.
That's exactly, and that's what they said afterwards. There was a concern about there's destruction of evidence, and there was a high risk for it.
Yeah, I mean, we've been Manafort is not some new phenomena.
No.
We should think about. Manafort has been involved with these type. First of all, he's been ingrained in the establishment of the Republican Party, going back to Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush. Right, he's been ingrained in the Republican Party since then, and he's been working for dictators since that time. He's been doing the dirty work. I mean, he's pretty much like a Henry Kissinger of the Republican Party, pretty much. The shit he's been doing and the people he's been dealing with. I mean, he might as well have been running Pinochet's black sites down in Chile. This is the type of person he is, and these are the type of people he deals with. And people are surprised by this. No, Manafort's been working with these shitheads for decades now. These fascists, these dictators, these people who it just shows you that he's been doing the dirty bidding of the Republican Party and the fascists throughout the world for the past 2 or 3 decades.
Well, Sean, the truth is
you don't know the power of the dark side.
We've got our own guy right there, man. I mean, we got our very own Sith right there, right in the Trump operation. So
yeah.
It's just nuts. No, that's right. And the FBI has had a file on this guy, and the CIA they've been following this guy around for at least 11 years, right? So they've got a kind of long track record. These are the details that are starting to come out now. That there was a FISA warrant, a whole bunch of stuff there. So it looks like we're about to get some things.
And really, if it wasn't for Ukraine overthrowing their government, and overthrowing the government and preserving the documents that Manafort was getting payments, off the record payments in cash for this stuff, this would never come to an issue, really, the way that it has.
Yep. No, that's absolutely right. I mean, there you go.
He was working for the Ukrainian dictator who was openly killing his people in the streets and who was a puppet of the Russian oligarchy and the Russian and Putin.
Yep. No, absolutely.
Go
ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's where I think the Russian narrative has to be explained. Dude, this guy was in bed with Russian mafia thugs and people killing their own leaders, killing their own people.
No, exactly. As that's the better story, right? I mean, this is why we've talked about this before. It's why the Russian narrative, right? I get a little bit impatient with some of the folks on the left, right? Who just because the Democratic Party is all keen on the Russia thing, right? Russia explains Hillary, that kind of thing. And so there's been nonstop coverage. There's been folks that have been wanting to dismiss the Russia narrative as there's nothing there. And, again, I've thought from the get-go, it's no, there's something going on there. We don't know exactly what it is. It's not, the narrative is not we're going to search and find this, and then that's going to explain everything, and then it's going to redeem the Democratic Party. No, right? That I think we're finding more and more as the days go by that the kind of neoliberal wing of the Democratic Party, right, just basically sang its kind of funeral song in the last election and got to move on. But there's actually something that has been happening in terms of Russia, which is, kind of more criminal, has to do with kind of more economic exploitation, has to do with corruption, and that's worth finding out about.
Yeah.
Crazy. Then meanwhile, you've got, seemingly, Jimmy Kimmel seems to have found his political sweet spot since on this kind of the Medicare fight or the kind of repeal replace thing.
He's been doing this for months now too.
Yeah, I know. He's been in a groove on it, and he's openly taken on these Republicans who are trying to kind of
and he shames them on his show.
Yeah, I mean it's
this guy just lied to my face. Talking about was it Graham, Senator Graham, or part of the Graham Cassidy?
Graham Cassidy. Cassidy's the one that lied to his face.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, no, this is what the people got to start using their megaphone. And when Jimmy Kimmel shared his story months ago about the life-saving surgery or procedure that his son needed, and he said, if I wasn't in the position that I am in today as a famous actor, as a famous talking head, my baby would have been dead.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
Right. And then we had Cassidy on the show, right? Basically, because Cassidy came out, if you remember, because the reason why Kimmel basically has been on him is because Cassidy openly said any kind of replacement plan for Obamacare has to pass the Jimmy Kimmel test. Right, so that was Cassidy put those words on, and basically that means no one's going to get kicked off health insurance. There's not going to be an increase in premiums. There's pre-existing conditions are still going to be covered. All this kind of stuff, right? And he said it on his show live, right? I mean, it's on tape now. And then basically what they're putting forward, him and Lindsey Graham, they're putting forward one last ditch attempt to get rid of the Affordable Care Act in ways that's going to throw about 32 million people.
And also make it legal across the country for states to have universal health care.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's disgusting. I mean, it's even worse than the ones that came before it in the degree of cold-heartedness that is at its core. I mean, good. Props to Jimmy Kimmel on this one. Crazy. Well, speaking of cold-heartedness, Sean,
do you want to do the St. Louis police before we get into this?
I guess so. So let's because otherwise the reason why Sean is saying that because Sean knows that there's going to be there's a potential avalanche of rant coming from me. So he's like, we better talk about that before let's
get to this before the shitstorm starts.
Yeah, Sean wants to be able to sit back in his seat for a little bit
because this is going to start.
Yeah. Yes,
and it's going to flow into the second segment.
Yeah, I mean it's just so get prepared, everybody. Strap yourself in. So we're going to talk about what happened in St. Louis, and then strap yourself in from there because it's going to be coming full throttle after that one. All right. So what happened in St. Louis? I mean, again, there have been a series of protests. Once again, another police officer exonerated, right? Found not guilty for killing a black man, right? I mean, it's disgusting how prevalent this is, right? So there's been protests in the street and all this kind of stuff, and remarkably, you had police dressed in full riot gear, right, confronting kind of protesters and so on, start chanting, and someone caught this on tape, start chanting, whose streets are streets, whose streets are streets, right, which has been the chant from the kind of pro-democracy movements in this country, right, the resistance movements in this country now for decades.
That was a flippin' fuck you to protesters, and I'm sorry for saying that. I know some of our listeners are going to message me about this later on.
Seth.
But no, that was a flippant fu to the protesters, and speaking about flippant FUs, I think we could talk about the state representative Aaron Bernstein, who decided to tweet about this at 12:30 on a Saturday morning. I can't say for a fact, but I think he was working his way through a bottle of something. Let me tweet this out because I got up in the middle of the night to go to use the restroom. I was drinking at the
you
bar.
You can say bathroom on the podcast, Sean.
Yeah, I was using to go into the bathroom. I was drinking a copious amount of beer the night before with a couple people. I sat down at McGrath's and ended up talking to someone. She comes into Pizza Bowl all the time, recognized me, so we started talking beer and stuff like that for a couple hours. One beer turns into 5, and I go back to my apartment, go to sleep, get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, check my phone, because usually what you instinctually check your phone when you get up in the middle of the night. And I got a message with Bernstein's tweet. And after I went to the bathroom, I didn't have my glasses on. I'm still like foggy, slightly hungover, can't really see. Like my eyes have not adjusted. Everything's still a blur, right? And I screenshot the tweet, and then I looked at the tweet again, and I saw he tweeted this out like 12:30 at night. So I grabbed the screenshot again, and basically he flippantly talked about running over protesters. So I put a tweet out there. Keystone Progress put a tweet out there. He called people from Keystone Progress a bunch of snowflakes because Keystone Progress put his office phone number out there. Brett, our friend Brett, ended up retweeting my tweet, which said like, self-described Christian Aaron Bernstein promises to run over protesters. So that just goes haywire. He retweets out the People for Bernie page. And then Bernstein decides to engage me in this at this point, 9 o'clock in the morning.
That's when Sean dons the flaming sword of the interwebs.
Which I think it might have been like one of the best tweets I ever put out there. I put, odd that Aaron Bernstein doesn't like ISIS, or doesn't like Sharia law, but endorses a strategy used by ISIS.
You know what I heard at that time? I heard this. It actually woke me up, that sound. I was like, what the? And my phone's going.
People are asking you, did you see this on Twitter? Then what happened? Think Progress picks it up within a matter of hours. They screen grab my tweet, put my tweet in their story. And then people from Philadelphia and Pittsburgh also embed my tweet in their story. So my phone's literally buzzing for 5 days after this. And I'm still getting notifications that people are like retweeting and liking this tweet. I'm just like, so I had that fun this week too.
Man.
That was my Saturday morning fun before I had to go to bartend for 10 hours at Pizza Boy.
There you go. Well, I told you this, and I literally, I had people emailing me from across the country, like people I know from like my academic work and things like this, and they're like, wanted to make sure I saw this. Did you see this? Right? And I'm like, yeah. Our guy here, Sean, is the one who got this ball rolling. And they were like, they couldn't believe it. They're like, oh my God, I saw this, blah, 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 because
like Dave Weigel retweeted what I did. Right. And Jesus said, run thy protesters over with the Jeep can Cherokee. Run those libs over.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, there's got to be, this is the they're in neighboring districts, right? Daryl Metcalf and this dude.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe they're like right next to each other.
I'm telling you, there's something in the water up there, man. I mean, I think people are going to have to start rethinking their whole kind of like resistance to fracking because, man, like they're drinking the frack water up there and they're producing some free, like mutant Republicans.
The response to this, couple of state representative, one, Dana Bullock, African-American woman from Philadelphia, put out a statement like on Tuesday saying, I have seen a lot of things in my day, but basically she basically called him a racist in the statement. And the guy's a fucking racist. I mean, and one thing I think we have to realize, there are a lot of racists inside our legislature.
Yep.
And one thing the media won't call them out on it, but we will. Eichelberger, absolute racist for what he said about, African-American students, those inner city youth should look at other opportunities besides going to college. The stuff Metcalf has done and the stuff, like this guy Bernstein has done. And it's not just these three people. There's more out there in our legislature who are flat out racist.
Yep.
They just decide to take the hoods off.
Yeah, exactly. They're took the hoods off, put their suits on, and now they're kind of occupying a good portion of our state legislature. As they are and nationally too as well.
Yeah, and kind of sets up our next segment. But
yeah, I think we're going to come back. Let's take a little break, and we'll come back, and we'll do a kind of a full on poshy focus like internet for here, because when we come back, we're going to talk about two things that kind of related. They're similar jumping off points. I want to come back. I want to talk about the Kutztown University, what happened at Kutztown University, how an adjunct faculty member basically needed life-saving surgery. And because that faculty member did not have enough accumulated sick time, because they're adjunct faculty members who don't accumulate their sick time in the way that a full-time permanent faculty member does, didn't have enough for recovery. The university, on the orders of the state system of higher education, the university chose to fire that faculty member, kick them out of a job, off health insurance, just a couple weeks before kind of this necessary critical surgery. And you want to talk about heartlessness, you want to talk about coldness, you want to talk about like such misplaced priorities that we can even accept this as even an inkling of normal at this point. We're going to get into that. And right now, as I speak, I published an article on this morning, and it seems like, well, just looking at what's going on right now, we're basically approaching 3,000 reads, and people are sharing this all over the place. This is after the best attempts have been made by the faculty union to resolve this in a different way. So we're going to come back. We'll start with that. I'll tell you a little about the story, and then Sean's going to kind of take us off from starting place of what's been happening. Again, we have more racist flyers being posted at university campuses, and watching.
And this is a group, not just racist flyers. This is a racist flyers by a group that played an integral part in planning and organizing the Charlottesville race riots that we saw last month.
Absolutely. So we're going to come back to that. So, stick around, folks. Fire hose on, right? We'll be back right after this. Reminder that if you want to support this work, if you want to support Sean's work, my work, Raging Chicken work, help support our new our new student fellowship program, go to ragingchickenpress.org and click on the support and membership tab and become a member for as little as $5 a month. If you kick in at the $10 a month level, remember, we will send you Mark Bray's book, Antifa, the Anti-Fascist Handbook, or a Raging Chicken Press Stay Woke coffee mug. We will be back right after these messages, folks.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 2006. 11 Domino's pizza delivery drivers in Pensacola, Florida, formed what is thought to be the first ever union of pizza delivery drivers. The American Union of Pizza Delivery Drivers won recognition from the National Labor Relations Board as the bargaining agent for drivers at the Pensacola franchise. Jim Pohl, a 37-year-old Domino's driver, started the union drive. He explained to a reporter, "When Domino's declared us tipped employees and refused to pay us the Florida minimum wage of $6.40, I was kind of angry. I came home that night and I told my buddy, I said, we are forming a union." Pohl then looked on the internet for a labor lawyer. He found one who had worked on unsuccessful organizing efforts by pizza workers in Ohio, Michigan, and St. Louis. The attorney helped Pohl submit a petition to the National Labor Relations Board. The NLRB noted that the union appeared to be the first of its kind. In response, a Domino's spokesman stated, "We do not believe it necessary in our industry and are surprised that the individual employees in that store voted to turn over their ability to represent themselves to their supervisor to someone else." The Domino franchise owner also increased wages at 6 other stores to ensure those workers did not also form a union. Union organizing drives and efforts to raise wages of fast food workers are important efforts for today's labor movement.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine.
Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
Welcome back to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press, here once again with Sean Kitchen. When we went to break, we were kind of basically setting us up for the fire hose right now. And I'll warn you ahead of time, I'm pretty pissed off about this for a variety of different reasons. But I'll just take you right into it. So I published this story this morning. Basically, the rundown of it is this. Last week, our faculty union president, Amanda Morris, found out that there was a adjunct faculty member on campus who basically was told by their doctor that they had to go on bed rest and had to have this kind of critical life-saving surgery, or else, right? That's the implicit part of it, right? If you don't do this, right, there's a potential that you're going to die. So the faculty member says, what am I going to do? Members of this faculty members department basically step forward and say, look, we'll cover this. We'll cover this person's classes to make sure that they got the class coverage so they can go kind of take care of themselves, right? Which is the response that you'd expect from a community, right? When it was found out, when our union president found out, Amanda Morris found out that this temporary faculty member, this adjunct faculty member, did not have enough sick leave basically to take them through the recovery period. There was some concern at that point, and this is kind of like last Thursday or something, there was some concern at that point that this faculty member could use their job. So Morris basically said, okay, look, let's dig into this. Let's find a way to make sure that doesn't happen, that this person has the care that they need. And faculty members in the adjuncts department basically step forward and say, look, we'll donate sick time for our own sick time for this person to make sure that they're covered. Other faculty members who found out were stepping forward saying, we will donate our sick time too as well, just to make sure this person is taken care of. The problem is this was going to require a local agreement between the Kutztown University administration and the faculty union president or the faculty union, basically to allow for this to happen as a one-time procedure, because right now there doesn't exist a way of doing this, right, of donating sick time to someone, especially an adjunct faculty member, for this. So it would have required a one-time agreement. According to Amanda Morris, in terms of her discussions with the administration, the HR department seemed to indicate to her that, well, technically it's possible, right, to do that transfer of sick days, that they could do that, they could accomplish that. The question that was on the table is the university willing to do this, right? Is the administration willing to do this? So that's where things were on Thursday. Morris goes off to a kind of statewide meeting, right? She's still working on this problem, comes back on that Monday morning to find out that faculty member had been fired. Right, immediately gets on the phone to the university president, said we need to meet immediately. They agree to a meeting the next day to find out what we can do. And basically, the short of it is that the university president, Dr. Kenneth Hawkinson, kind of met with, and kind of provost, Dr. Ann Zayitz, and the director of human resources, Sharon Pikus, met with Amanda Morris, basically with tons of notes. Apparently, they had been in discussion with the chancellor's office of the state system of higher education, in particular Lisa Sano, was, I guess, running point on it from the administration side of things, and basically said, no, we are not going to be willing to enter into an agreement because, one, it's going to cost money, right, even though they didn't say it exactly like that, but it was going to cost the system money, and it could potentially set precedent, right, for other temporary faculty members or other faculty members who also need help, right? And so for those reasons, they decided to deny this, right? Kick this person to the curb, kick them off health insurance, and leaving them in a situation just like just a couple of weeks before this surgery, to start to find a way, we've got it, without a job, to start paying COBRA payments in the amount of $637+ per month, right? Now, how do you do that? Without a job, right? You're going to be laid up in a bed, unable to go work, right? And this is right before you have the surgery. You've got no choice, right? What are you going to do? You're going to die, right? You're going to say, I'm not going to have this surgery, so I'm just going to give up here, or you're going to do it and then figure out how the heck you're going to pay for things afterwards. And again, this is the situation that thousands and thousands and thousands of people are in every single day, right? The cruel irony of the situation at Kutztown University is that Kutztown University just recently launched a brand campaign talking about how important and caring this community is. Their mission statement was rewritten a few years back to talk about we do the work that we do within the context of a caring community. Yet in practice, this is what they do. Right. And I've seen some pretty horrendous things in my time as a faculty member and working for our faculty union. And I've had to swallow a lot of unbelievable choices that the administration has made before. Not just this president, previous presidents of the university and at the state system level. But to see this in the face, staring in the face of a human being that needs this surgery, right? And to say that, well, you know what? It's a little bit inconvenient, so we feel bad, but we're going to cut this person loose and let the chips fall where they may. Sean, I can't even get past my disgust and rage at what is going on.
Yeah, no, and like a couple of things I can say about this. Following the strike stuff, following the last two contract negotiations, I really can't say I'm surprised. Because they've been going after adjunct faculty members, pretty much on the regular for the past few years, and since over the last two contract negotiations. Can't really say I'm surprised by this, And they're like, what else is there to say? Like, it's shocking, but it's like, and the same point just from I was an intern at AppScuff a few years ago, knowing how the faculty system works, knowing how the state system works, doing the stuff with the Raging Chicken Press. I can't say I'm surprised. Morally, this is just horrible, wrong. But a part of me says I'm not surprised that they did this because of the way they've been trying to churn through adjunct faculty members, the way they've been trying to really reverse the ratio from tenured faculty to non-tenured faculty within the system, and make it more of a market-driven, university system where you have 2/3. Adjunct faculty for 1/3 adjunct or tenured line faculty when really it's the other way around.
Yeah, this is what your free market world looks like, people, right? This is go out and fend for yourself, right? Even when you're actually physically unable to do so, right? Now, go ahead, sorry.
I know, but I say the other thing is this is the Republican version of just die on the streets. And to have this story come up at a time when we're, again, facing wholesale changes to our healthcare system that would upend a sixth of our economy because they don't know what's in the bill, but they're going to do it anyway. The kamikaze caucus of the Republican Party. This is legislative violence we're seeing with the repeal of Obamacare, another attempt at repeal of Obamacare that will kill tens of thousands of people. And this is one of those instances right there.
Well, and it also
either pay or die.
Well, it's a pay or die. This is what Rick Smith has always said, right? It's the pay or die system. They want to take us back to the Lochner era, and this is what the pay or die. You're on your own. Like, screw community, screw everyone, as long as they're. But what's even more disturbing to me here, because I already can hear the voices in my head of there's other faculty members that matter. Well, wait a minute, these folks who are there they're not necessarily right wing Republicans. No, because there's another layer here. And that has to do with the unwillingness, right, to question authority, to challenge people, to take a risk oneself when you're asked to do morally repugnant things. And this is, again, I don't want to explode this too much and get too hyperbolic on this. But the thing is historically, when you look at kind of when horrible things have happened in the world, and you ask the question, right, from historical distance, how could people go along with this? This is how it happens. When you're asked to do something, even if in your heart, in your bleeding freaking heart, you think that this is a horrible thing, you're willing to stand by and follow orders, right? Even though that might result in the death of a human being, right? What does it say about those individuals who will accept to follow those orders? Unwilling to kind of say, look, I don't want to risk my own job, so I am willing to sell this person down the road, right? And hey, let the chips fall what they may. Wash your hands of it, saying, look, it's unfortunate, but there was nothing I can do. That is a load of crap. That is a load of crap. And, it was ironic that this happened this week too as well. That in one of my classes we're watching this film called Nobody Speaks. It's a First Amendment issue things and all this. And there's an example in there. It was a reporter from the Nevada Sun-Times, right? Who had written a book about Nevada and about the gaming industry and things like this. And in that book, Sheldon Adelson, right, is part of it, right? Because you can't talk about Las Vegas gaming without talking about Sheldon Adelson, right? Because he's probably one of the wealthiest people in the world. Right, and really kind of like the power broker in Las Vegas, right? So he gets a couple mentions in this book, right? And then Adelson flips out. They weren't even disparaging, right? They were just kind of descriptive. Flips out and sues this guy for libel for millions of dollars, right? This reporter finds out that he's being sued, right, for money that there's no way as they could ever have. He's being sued. He's at the bedside of his daughter that had just been diagnosed with a brain tumor that was going into surgery to save her life. This is when he finds out against it. And then you have a rabbi, right? Adelson sends a rabbi, right, to talk to this guy, or like around, kind of behind the scenes type of things. Say, hey, listen, Adelson will deposit like 6-digit figures into your bank account to take care of your daughter if you admit that you libeled him and you accept responsibility and say that was your intention. And you know what this guy did? With his daughter sitting there on the bed, right, facing like potential death, right, says no. He says, I could not live with myself, right? I could not live with myself in making that decision, right? So he said no, he would not accept the deal, and he had to fight it, right? And that stood up, and again, eventually what happens? Adelson buys the paper, puts this guy and other people out of a job, and so on. But the story is, ultimately, what are we when we look in the face? We have to make these choices. Right? What other choices were available, like to even the administration of Kutztown University, right, to be able to say, no, we're not going to do this, right? And instead, what was blew my mind, right, as part of the meetings that our faculty union president had with the administration, is basically this. Well, I guess maybe they should set up a website where people can donate money to themselves, a GoFundMe site, right? That's the degree to which that's your suggestion.
They suggested that?
Yes. But here's the thing, right? So again, that in a sense that's your last resort. But we're like, okay, we're like, well, is the administration going to do that? Right? You could imagine even if they wanted to save their little pretty jobs, they didn't want to get a slap on the hand by the chancellor's office, they could have stepped forward and said, we are going to do that as a university because we're freaking conscious human beings. Right? But no, they wouldn't even do it. They just wanted to say those words to somehow absolve themselves of responsibility. But the union wouldn't do it. The union has stepped forward now, and they've set up their own PayPal. It's not the union's done. They've helped this individual set up a PayPal account so that people can donate to them, donate to this person directly, right? Without having to have PayPal skim off the top and all that stuff, but donate to them directly to help them meet their kind of COBRA payments. Look, the hope is still that there's going to still a possibility that with enough pressure, right, there's going to be they're going to go back on their decision. They're actually going to reinstate this person and come to a better solution, right? But in the absence of that, the only thing standing right now between that individual and potential death, right, is the union, is the very people that were out on the streets last fall, right, who stood there in solidarity with students in the community and stood up and said, we are the university. These are the same people, right? My union, the one is stepping forward now and making sure that this person is not going to go away, making sure that this person is going to get the care that they need. And if you ever, anybody out there who's listening to this, ever need an argument for why you need a union, right, this is it. Like, not just a union that's going to sit there or negotiate a contract, but a union that is going to stand up, right, and is going to refuse to let you be cast aside like a piece of trash. Right, I am so disgusted by this, Sean, and I'm sure you can't tell, right? But I'm so disgusted by this because it goes well beyond the kind of crap that you have to put up with, like in any kind of workplace setting all the time. When you have to fight these battles, for retrenchments, against downsizing, against the lies that these people put forward. But when it comes to actually the baseline of protecting human life, that's when you get to look into people's souls, and not for what they say, but for what they do. And by that is the criteria for their judgment. That is what determines which side you're on, right there.
You done?
just getting started.
Trying to take a little bit of a breather.
Just getting started.
One of the things when you publish a story, so we were on the phone talking about this on Wednesday. You were driving to Kutztown,
yep.
And one of the things you did is you pulled over the car. He said, Sean, this sounds weird. I got to take a picture of this billboard. Can you hold on for a few minutes? So, phone goes off. You get the picture. So I see the picture that you took of this billboard. And one of the things I did not notice was the graffiti that you added to the billboard in Photoshop.
All right. So just give some context here. So basically, okay, as you come into Kutztown, right, I drive pretty much the same way each way. I sometimes take different time. But I hadn't seen this before. It's the first time I'd ever seen this billboard. Like I said earlier, that Kutztown has just launched its new brand campaign, right? They have a brand anthem and everything, right? Pledge allegiance to the brand anthem. Right, exactly, right? I mean, whatever. So I'm coming in, and there's this new billboard that's put up, right? It's this bright, yellow sign with the bear, right? Because Kutztown is the Golden Bears, and it has this bear that stands up, and it's one of those billboards that the bear extends beyond the billboard itself, and it's standing up tall, and it says, "Don't be afraid to stand out." Right, and then underneath it says "Good to be golden." Right, that's the hashtag of their campaign. So I went in there and said, here you go. Don't be afraid to stand out. Well, if this is a test of your new brand, I've never heard of another one, right? Don't be afraid. You're told by your superiors, right, basically to say what? You're told by your superiors to say nah, let the person die, right? And what do you say? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right? That's what you say? You say, I'm just going to follow orders? No. If you're going to follow your own freaking brand campaign, you stand out, right? You stand up and you stand out. So I gave it a little alteration on Photoshop here. I would just love it to know, how many of the administrators actually ran down to the sign to see if it actually had been defaced, right? Because whatever, there's always, there's a few of them out there that are not exactly the brightest bulbs in the box. But so I put a little asterisk on it, and it says, don't be afraid to stand out, asterisk, right? Unless your boss says no, or unless it's going to cost your employer money, or if you are putting people first, right? And then under the hashtag it says "Good to be golden." I put hashtag "Better to be human," right? I was a little mad, Sean.
I could tell. I could tell.
But look, and here's the thing: is that the administration, both at Kutztown and at the Chancellor's office of Pashi level, were given every opportunity to do the right thing. Right, our local union president was on the phone with the labor relations people out there for ABSCUF, our faculty union, who were then in conversations with labor relations with people on Pashi, right? And they had every opportunity, right? And so you wait till the last minute, and who the heck wants to do this, right? Who the heck wants to kind of move forward and have to kind of write this kind of story when it could have been taken for? And I'll tell you, I'm not the only one that's pissed off, right? If anybody takes a look at our Facebook page right now, right, there's a few other people. And I just want to share a couple of the comments that are out there, right? Here's one, right? I'm writing a letter to the Kutztown University administrators to express my disbelief and opinion on several issues regarding KU. I am an alumna and live in the Kutztown area. Here's some from a former student. President Hawkinson should put his money where his mouth is and actually do something for once. All talk, no walk. Next person, right? Here's something who had worked in the system for a while as an adjunct. That's Pashi, right? Use us, exploit us, and kick the hell out of us as an adjunct and one who has lost classes to cut her down from full time, thus making my health care cost more, therefore becoming unavailable to me. This makes me so damn mad. We are worth more than this. I can't even donate because guess what? Come January, I'm back out of this system once again. Again, another person, this is disgusting. Healthcare is a human right. It should not be something that we buy or consume as a commodity, right? And I could just go on and on through the comments. And we have some people who are posting and we'll put this in the show notes for today, the contact information for Dr. Hawkinson, the president of Kutztown University, and for the Chancellor's office of Pashi. Remember, Frank Brogan was the guy who was there, but Frank Brogan is kind of out trying to seek a job with the Trump administration right now. So we have an interim chancellor, but there's contact information for the Chancellor's office there too as well. Again, I mean, look, if this is not a baseline test of a community, right? And it's disgusting to see that after these hurricanes have devastated communities, and to find that we're championing this human spirit of people helping people in dire situations, right? And we see that kind of that outpouring of human emotions. To see this run completely in a 180-degree direction away from this is sick.
Yeah, and one of the other conversations that this spurred, especially with people on my Facebook feed and others, people who are sharing this, is that healthcare is a human right, and that we should be advocating for Medicare for all simply because of stuff like this. This is the secondary conversation that is going on right now.
Yeah, that's right. And if they, I say if this, I was raised Catholic, Sean, and this is the kind of stuff that
I went to 13 years of Catholic school.
Yeah. Well, this is
4 years in an old guy's Catholic high school. So it's like,
well, this is the kind of thing, like, look, I got disgusted with the church a long time ago, right? Because of, and primarily kind of what they ended up doing with kids. But there's something that has always stuck with me that I do appreciate so much about my times as growing up Catholic. And 'cause I was one of these kids. I was a believer. I wasn't just like I went to church and things like this. I sat there. I read all the materials, right? Even though you're not supposed to. If you're a Catholic, you're not supposed to read. But I listened to that stuff, and I kind of, I really took to heart a very basic message, right? Say, this is what it means, like you need to be a good person. And this is the things that you need to take care of other people and so on. And judgment was not something that was just some sort of abstract thing, but every time that you as an individual are encountered with a challenge, right, whether or not to do the right thing, you as an individual have to choose, right? And that becomes your mark of say, whatever Christian or Catholic
morality.
Practice of morality, right? That's what, and that's something, again, it shouldn't surprise people that, given that message I took for heart, I do what I do now, right? That should mean that for me is a baseline of how people should be and act in the world.
And, I'm a little bit more of a different path. I was raised Catholic, 13 years of Catholic schooling. I'd say around like 7th or 8th grade, I didn't believe in a damn thing I was being taught. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God or anything like that. More of a science person. But, one of the things that Catholic school did teach me is to do the right fucking thing.
Yeah.
It's probably why I'm an activist. I grew up in a union household. I saw how unions, what unions did for my dad and stuff like that. I saw how my dad got screwed by companies moving their companies 2 hours to the west so they could break the union. I saw my dad lose his job because the shipment, they decided to close it up to move the jobs out to Mexico. I saw my dad, just like that type of stuff. And that's had a really transformative effect on my opinions. And it's just it's just do the right thing is pretty much like what I got out of Catholic school. It's like reading on, the anarchist Catholics like Dorothy Day.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that type of stuff that Chris Hedges would talk about or write about. Yeah, I'm an atheist, but it's also the Catholic schooling and what I learned. It's just do the right thing is sort of like one of the things that is why I'm an activist, and just taking that and it's exactly the same thing.
No, and again, and it is the same thing, just like you said, it's why you're an activist, why you do this stuff. And, the same thing that, talk about do the right thing is that is the very, very principles of solidarity. So, anyways, I don't want to spend too much more time on it. We got lots more to talk about here today. But, check that out, folks. And check out our article on this kind of stuff so you see the story. I'm going to have a couple of follow-up stories that are going to be coming Monday and maybe more next week. I will be following this very closely, and I know that our faculty union, both locally and statewide, are doing what they can to rectify the situation. But worst case scenario, there is a site that's set up that you can donate directly to this person to make sure that they're going to get the care that they need, and I think that's probably the least that we can do. Yeah.
I guess we could talk about another university that decided not to do the right thing this week.
There you go, man. This is let's start with the Department of
Mental Gymnastics at Millersville.
Ibbity, that's all, folks. Yeah, walk us into it, Sean. Into the fire, man.
So, the story we've been covering here for the past year now, something we choose to cover at the Raging Chicken Press because we believe it needs to be covered, is the actions the alt-right, white supremacist, neo-Nazis are taking in our state. And we choose to cover that even though that makes some people uncomfortable. Right?
Yep.
And so one of the things that happened this week that we've been covering for the past year, Identity Europa, spelled with a V, decided to have a back-to-school white nationalist recruitment campaign on colleges across the country. They are a European identitarian white nationalist group. They were founded just about over a year and a half ago. They are one of the fastest growing and largest white nationalist groups in the country, and they specifically target college campuses as their recruitment centers. And they're not recruiting your toothless, redneck stereotypes that people associate with neo-Nazis or skinheads or KKK members. They are organizing disaffected, middle-class, upper-middle-class white college students.
Yeah, I remember, Sean, when we were first digging into this, months ago now, when the flyers were appearing around campuses last year and stuff, and again, just go right to your point. I mean, this is an over-conscious strategy on their part to target college campuses for this movement.
So, their recruitment strategies at first was to, have believe in your pride type messages with goddess statues as their first rollout of their campaign. Right. This organization was founded by Nathan D'Amigo. He was a Marine who had a more than dishonorable discharge from the Marine Corps. He spent a few years in jail for beating the shit out of a taxi driver who he thought was Muslim. And he became really famous really quickly within the white nationalists, within the neo-Nazi, within the alt-right movement for punching a counter-protester in the face in Berkeley last year.
Yep.
Right. So this happened right around the springtime after the first round of flyering that hit at Kutztown, York College, Pennsylvania, Penn State Berks. And this organization, Identity Europa and Nathan D'Amigo, played an intricate role in organizing the Charlottesville race riots that we saw last month and the Tiki Torch March through the University of Virginia campus. They are the ones who were chanting, "You will not replace us, Jews will not replace us," over and over again in that torchlit march. So this year they started off the school season. As of last week, Newsweek reported they hit 13 campuses. This is before the latest round. They hit 13 campuses in 7 states with a new form of posters. Right. Let me just bring this up real quick.
Yeah, sure.
So these posters they changed up the posters. We have it on original story. Showing the tweets of Elizabethtown and Millersville College where they hit. They also hit Penn State University. So this is what the Newsweek article said that we quoted. After a brief lull of the summer, Identity Europa is ramping up its recruitment arm with terrifying speed and a sudden shift in strategy. Historically, the group's flyers had images of Greek and Roman statues alongside vague phrases like "Our future belongs to us," "Let's become great again." But a few weeks ago, Identity Europa unveiled a new recruiting strategy, posters with photos of founder Nathan D'Amico and Evan Thomas, another Identity Europa member, both of whom could pass for frat bros.
Yep.
Taking into bullhorns above new slogans, including "Our generation, our future, our chance," action, leadership, identity. They are no longer hiding behind the images of statues, Mayo from the Anti-Defamation League says, but showing people who they are in the streets, taking action, right? So next paragraph, another batch of Identity Europa posters promotes books published by Art Coast Media, a leading far-right publisher founded by Swedish businessman Daniel Freeberg. He launched altright.com with Richard Spencer. It's an academic approach that gives white supremacy not just an intellectual foundation, but a veneer of mainstream culture. As Mayo puts it, Identity Europa is trying to go further than just talking about preserving white identity and wants students to read the works that fuel their ideology, giving them the ideological basis for their thinking. So let's just put that in context, what we just read, right?
Yeah.
These posters that they were talking about appeared on Elizabethtown campus, Elizabethtown College campus, and on Millersville. What I was doing, just hey, let's just go into the Project Siege hashtag and see what has been happening recently. It's something I check on infrequently, maybe a month or 2 months.
Right.
Just want to see it's the beginning of the school year.
Yeah, we should say about that Project Siege hashtag, right? So basically, when these posters go up, like presumably the people that put them up, kind of members of these white nationalist groups that are around there, take the pictures of them and they start posting them up to social media using that hashtag. So that's what. And again, if you follow that, you can see where this stuff is happening. So
these posters are really nice posters, very glossy looking images. And you could tell how savvy this group is with social media, right? Mm-hmm. The pictures that they're taking. They're not just taking like pictures of the posters in a way where it's like, boom, right in the center of the image. No, they're using basic composition, rules of composition for photography. Like one of the things with the camera, you set your image as rule of thirds, right? Either have your image in 1/3 of the image, like split your frame up in threes, have it in 1/3 or the other, just so it gives more of an outlook to it, and use a lot of leading lines. So one of the images we picked for the story was a photo of track field, right, as you're in most of your frame, mm-hmm. with the track lines leading into the image, and it says the identity ropa, our generation, our future, our last chance, and it has Nathan D'Amigo speaking into a bullhorn. Right, so these posters go up on campus, Penn State, Stockton University in New Jersey, which is like South Jersey near the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania border.
I almost ended up working there too as well. I know exactly where that is.
Yep. And Millersville. So we report on this happening, and it goes up on the internet. We put it out in some groups. Students from Millersville picks this up, and they tweet this image out. They tweet our story to Millersville. And here we go, folks. Millersville tweets out that police did not believe posters were put up on campus, for one of the first tweets. I did not include that tweet in the story. Should have, but I did not. Second tweet, police believe posters were photoshopped on Millersville landmarks, or they put them up, took the pictures, and took them down. So let me just dissect this real quick.
Yeah.
They don't think like the posters were made in Photoshop and then put up. They believe that someone took the picture of these landmarks, went into Photoshop, and added these posters in post-production.
Right.
Let
that sink in for a second, folks. So your go-to response is
from the official university Twitter page.
Yep.
After they got called out on this,
they're basically their first response is like, "This is not real. This is a lie."
Yeah. Or the second part, so I put a tweet up dissecting that, because a student at Millersville sent me a picture of where the transistor box, one of those transistor boxes was. It was right where she was working. So the transistor box labeled SLS32 2DC, right? Mm-hmm. Has the photo of the poster on there. And then I have a picture of that same transistor box with the picture with paper left on it from the glue or the tape that was put up. And so obviously students were ripping these down as they came across them, because people know you see it go up, you see it go down. So the second part of this absurd logic, this part just borders absurdity, that you're going to put recruitment posters up, take pictures of them, and then take them down because you really don't want to recruit people at all, because that just doesn't work how recruitment. That's not how recruitment works.
No, exactly. So let's say that we're talking about it's within the realm of possibility that this might actually have happened. Kind of like there's that 3% of scientists who are still climate change deniers, Sean. Regardless of the fact that their research has been debunked like multiple times, there's still that little wedge of people, right, who want to hold out some possibility this stuff is not real. That's what we're talking about. So let's just assume that for a second, right? So that the worst case scenario is that you have a snowflake white nationalist, right, who is so afraid that he might be called out, goes out, but wants to be really part of the big guys, wants to be part of the fascist movement, so goes up there, slams this thing like with glue, right, onto different university sites, takes a picture of it, immediately rips it down and posts it so that he can have that kind of stuff. So that's what we're talking about. Right. So, the real implication here, though, is not that. Right. The real implication is that this is like some sort of freaking false flag operation, that it's being falsely constructed. Right. And the administration, as their first go-to flag is not to kind of like go after the message of white nationalists. It's to potentially finger the left, finger students for kind of making it all up. Sorry. Anyways, you were saying?
So I published a story Tuesday afternoon, right after we get a hold of it. This tweet is shot out in response to a student saying, you got to address this. And they do this at Tuesday night, right? I email them. I see this tweet the next day. I email them at 7:30 in the morning on Wednesday. Okay, I didn't publish my follow-up until 12. I gave them about 5.5 hours to get back. Right. And my email says, can you verify what this tweet says? Right. Some people were calling me out that I didn't email. So I just put the email up on my Facebook page. Yeah, I emailed them. This is what I do. And I normally don't do that. Like, you know what I mean? It's not really like professional to do that. But, you know, I'm just going to pull up my email right now. Mm-hmm. Let's just give me a couple of seconds with this. Let's go to sent. All right, here we go. So I sent it to Janet Cox. And, okay, so this is what I write. It's like, this is Sean Kitchen from the Raging Chicken Press, and I'm emailing in response to a story we published yesterday about a white supremacist group, Identity Europa, posting recruitment posters on Millersville's campus. What is the university's official response to these posters appearing on campus? Question mark. Does this university or the university police believe that these posters were photoshopped onto these landmarks as mentioned on the @MillersvilleU Twitter account? If so, how did the university police come to that conclusion? I have photos showing that one of these posters was ripped down. Were the people who posted these posters on campus or outsiders, like on campus students or outsiders? Please get back to me as quickly as possible so I can update our story. Yep. Sent it out 7:30. A few general questions. Really covered all points. So they don't respond. No official statement is made until yesterday morning in a newsletter talking about the bulletin board guidelines and how you have to get it approved by the student government board or some sort of student board to use the bulletin boards around campus.
So our response is to quote our policy about posting flyers appropriately on campus.
Yeah.
Okay. So, just want to make sure I got that.
And then yesterday afternoon, they finally released a full statement.
Begrudgingly, we should say.
Yes. A shitty, half-hearted statement, too, at best. Recent events across the nation have also impacted the Millersville campus. Signs recently posted that those that espouse white supremacist and neo-Nazi philosophies have appeared on MU bulletin boards and property. Vice President Hazlitt's Ville Daily message outlined university priorities for posting as well as appropriate and inappropriate locating for such postings. I want to address posters by message reassuring the campus community that these philosophies are not in line with our epic
E-double-P, epic
EPPIC values, which have been widely embraced by the university to review.
Sean, I must say, what does EPIC stand for?
It talks about exploration, professionalism, public mission, integrity, and compassion. And
it's epic.
So it basically just rehashes the university's like mission statement.
It's freaking brand. It's a branding moment for them. Let's talk about our epic university. Get it? Epic?
Yeah. Without really like espousing why these philosophies on campus are bad. And really during that time, the Twitter feed is a little active. You know what they were retweeting?
Do tell.
About their rankings in U.S. News and World Report.
I heard they're epic, Sean.
Something we already know is what they said. Just like, I don't like, and I retweet, yeah, sweeping white nationalism under the rug.
Yeah, exactly. In epic fashion, we could go on all day here. Millersville University sweeps white nationalism under the rug. However, it does have a very solid poster policy.
And then, Penn State might have been the worst in this.
Oh, well, again, because, Penn State doesn't have to worry about its image and its responses to horrible, events anyway. So do tell.
This is the place where they protect pedophiles, allow frat hazing to occur on the reg. And apparently, they support white nationalists. They released their initial tweet after they got called out on it. Was basically, we support all forms of speech, even though we don't agree with hate speech.
Okay, this is going to be hard for me to do right now because I'm really pissed off at Kutztown's administration right now, but I want to acknowledge this because I do think it's important. Is that one? If you look at Ken Hawkinson, right, the president of Kutztown Universities, and his initial responses to this, I still think let me put a big asterisk once again, right, on this by saying that I still think that their moves have not gone far enough, right, and students have come out and basically has said as much, and they're organizing for this kind of stuff. So let me be clear about that. But at the very least, the response that he issued. Right, that kind of following it again had to be prodded a little bit to get the stuff kind of moving out, but it was a statement against white nationalism, right? So my point being this is that you can both recognize the importance of freedom of speech, and we can have big debates about what qualifies as speech and what degrees do you accept speech, but you can accept free speech and then come out in the next sentence with your condemnation of white nationalism in the community. Right, you don't have to do so. So just say. And
this is speech that is predicated on violence.
Right.
This is speech that is predicated on political violence. This is not like the Klan. This is okay. Yeah, no, this is like the Klan marching through your neighborhood.
Yep.
Pretty much with their hoods on to terrorize people. These Andon Jesus Marin had a really good quotes. He's the director of Make the Road Pennsylvania. Which is an immigrant advocacy organization, immigrant rights organization. They serve two purposes. They embolden racists on college campuses and are meant to intimidate students of color and the general student body. He said that this is a concerted effort in normalizing white supremacy, but they're pushing the same intellectual trash they've been pushing for years.
Yep.
And this is someone who was at Kutztown, responding to the events at Kutztown with Make the Road Pennsylvania. And the response, the non-responses that's come from Millersville in this, and the branding effort that's coming afterwards is really dangerous for the students of color on that campus.
Well, right, and I think about to what degree are you inadvertently, let's be kind, right? Inadvertently laying out the welcome mat for more things to follow. Right. Again, these people operate like bullies. Right. I mean, the thing is, the bully goes out to see who they can pick on. Right. And they go after him. And they're going to keep on coming back. Right. Unless they're met with kind of firm resistance. And, this is my gift to university administrators. Right. And anyone else around the state who wants to hear them a gift. This is my gift. Right. If you want to know what a response looks like. Right. When you have this happen, you stand up and you basically say, not like we are going to look into this, like we're going to find out, where this is going on, and we're going to talk to our local police, whatever. No, what you say is this: we stand for freedom, we stand for democracy, we stand for as an inclusive community. We resist and reject any attempts at racism, white supremacy, right, and violence against kind of minority communities. Period. Right, towards this end, to ensure that we are living by our word in our message. We are just depositing $1 million, pick your number, right, into an account that is specifically for setting up an institute against white supremacy in the state of Pennsylvania, or a forum that will kind of bring speakers to campus to continually kind of reinforce our message and to build a caring community, to borrow Kutztown's language, right? You actually put your money where your mouth is, right? It's not just about the words that you say, it's about what you do. How many times do we have to hammer that into the ground with these people that this is what you need to do. It's not just about saying pretty words for your PR campaigns. It's about acting.
This is liberal institutions failing us before our eyes. This is traditional liberal institutions failing us before our eyes and allowing. Okay, yes, you have the free speech thing, but the fact that they didn't come out and espouse this right away or come out and condemn this speech right away is a failure of this liberal academic institution, and it puts the lives of people on your campus at risk. And it also allows a breeding culture for these groups to flourish, right? This group specifically targets college students. This group is predicated, their mission is predicated on violence. This isn't some like black student union group that meets up. No, this is a group that is predicated on violence and keeping certain races, certain either genocide, wiping them from the face of the earth, or keeping them permanent second-class citizens.
That's right. All of these people,
and they're doing this through white victimization and European identitarianism.
Exactly. And like when they got, again, it is use your shorthand, right? We got a president sitting in the in the White House right now who has given us the shorthand for this. When you hear this is all though, let's make America great again. MAGA, 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 MAGA. It's the same garbage. It's about getting back to the point where where white people ruled over everyone else, where women knew their place, right, and everyone was a heterosexual, right? Yeah, like that ever happened, right? So that's what this is after, right? This is the systematic attempts to bring back white supremacy. The only good possible news here, right, is that people are continuing to kind of resist every single day, right? And then maybe, just maybe, if we fight back strong enough, assertively enough, aggressive enough, then we can put this would be the last death throes, right, of the worst that this country has to offer.
I know it's not. This is going to keep on growing. And one of the things that has to happen, unions have to get involved in this.
Yes.
Unions have to start organizing college campuses again. They have to start investing in college campuses. Because if unions sit back and do nothing and choose not to organize college students, organize a resistance against these groups, people who will stand up and people, these are going to be totally different people getting involved on both sides here. But if you allow one side to organize and become one of the fastest growing white nationalist organizations, and you as a union allow, unions have more obligation to, these aren't going to be members you're organizing. You're organizing people, you're organizing against fascism right here on college campuses. This is where the fight's happening. And if you don't organize the other side, you are going to get steamrolled.
Yep. That's absolutely right, man. That's absolutely right.
And you are setting up a generation. This fighting out for a generation. You need to counter organize on this, or we will be slow walking ourselves into 1930s, 1940s Germany, 1940s Europe.
And I think that Sean is one of the lessons, and we talked about this on the show from our strike last fall. Right, is that yes, it was faculty that were standing up, right? But what gave that strike the power, right, was that you had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students that organized with faculty, right, around that issue. The only issue, this is our campus. Together, we are the power on this campus. And so one of the things, to go to your point about unions need to get involved, we also got to kind of say, look, there's the kind of technical, the technical status of a union, right? But then there's the bigger concept of what a union is, right? Because there was a time in this country, right, in the 1960s, 1970s, and so on, when student organizing was kind of exploding. Students decided to unionize. Right. When I worked at George Washington University, for example, there were archives, right, of these student organizations where students were basically calling themselves a union, and then you'd have all these kind of like politicians and admission. Well, you can't be a union because a union has to have a blah blah blah, because technically it does. And the students were just like, I don't care what you say, because we are a union, because we are organizing, we have demands, we have these kind of demands, and we are going to strike, right, if you do not meet these demands. Right, and students acted like a union. right? So just like, for example, when unions get worried right now, academic unions, for example, get worried, well, we don't want to work too closely with students because people are going to say that we're trying to manipulate. No. Instead of you say, who are we in this community? We are a kind of a locus of organizing strength in the community, and we're going to organize our communities to take back power. Right? That's not using students or using community. That is working with the communities to make sure that we defend the baseline institutions that we're supposed to have to support this kind of democracy, support freedom, support equality, support inclusiveness. Right? That's what a union needs to be. Right? And and again, how you want to call it, coalition, whatever the heck you want to call, I don't care. For me, that's the core. Right? We need to unionize, generally unionize. This is where the IWW had it right. One big union. One big union, we do this all together, right? And we fight back, right? And we have to be able to say it is not acceptable, right? When we have white supremacists on our campuses to start quoting, postering policy back to us as some kind of legitimate response. It is not. Big breath, big breath. I don't know, but Sean, I'm glad. One of the things that I'm glad we spend some time here with the Identity Europa stuff too as well. I mean, not just in terms of what happened with Millersville, but you taking us through some of the background of these organizations. I mean, we have to slowly, I think, keep at this, so this becomes kind of, say, common knowledge out there, because this is kind of what we're after. We have to understand the way these groups work. We have to understand their strategies, so we know where to fight back. I know
they are preparing for another Charlottesville. Right. One of the things I looked up in researching this, Berkeley, what happened in Berkeley last spring when D'Amigo punched out a anti-fascist protester, a woman,
right,
in the face, who was standing back from watching a street fight happening. He came up and punched this lady straight across the face because he couldn't probably punch a guy. He became famous right then and there. Like Berkeley was the testing ground for Charlottesville.
Yep.
Charlottesville happened 6 months later. And now they're going back to campuses with a vengeance to organize disaffected white college students. And gain more recruits. I was looking at their recruiting guidelines, right? You join this thing, right? $10 a month or $100 a year, right?
Yep.
Is their payment plan. You have to apply. You get set up with a bunch of questions. You are asked if you have any identifiable tattoos on your body. And then you have a face-to-face meeting, or you have a online, video web chat with these people. So now you're locked in. They have your face. They know who you are, and they know what you're doing. This is almost like joining the Church of Scientology.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, is Tom Cruise involved with this?
But this is their recruiting guidelines, and they're fashioning themselves as a frat. Openly a frat for white nationalists. Don't you want to join? Don't you want to be in a fraternity?
Yep.
You have some college students who are, who are
bound together in a brotherhood of hate.
What's that?
Bound together in a brotherhood of hate.
Or no, you have people who are socially awkward, never been a part of anything in their whole entire lives.
Yep.
And now you have this promising message coming from these people. I mean, they run these, they have messaging campaigns where they talk to college students, and one of the first couple of questions, they try to figure out what your political leanings are, and then they steer the conversations from there.
There you have it. We got to be prepared. There's one thing that we can say to these people, Sean.
Up your shaft.
We can say it over and over.
Up your shaft.
And over.
Up your shaft.
Over again. Because that's really kind of where we need to be. There's no doubt about it. Crazy. Well, anything else you want to throw in before we kind of fully exhaust ourselves and kind of and go to the last call today?
No, I think I'm good. I think I covered all my points.
All right, so folks, we're going to come back for the last call of the day, and we'll keep that one kind of relatively short today because we've basically taken a good portion of your day already. So just as one more reminder, if you can become a member, if you can afford it, you become a member for as little as $5 a month. You can become a Raging Chicken member for as little as $5 a month. Simply go to ragingchickenpress.org and go to the support and membership tab, and you'll be on your way. Really, your support, and we are, I've said this before, but we are so close to kind of meeting a goal. And if we hit that goal, we're going to be able to pay our writers more. It looks like we may be bringing on a second student fellow this semester. We'll see. We'll work out the details. I still got to kind of talk to him a little bit more about it. But we are also looking for additional contributing writers. So if you're interested, you want to do some of this work, hit me up at ragingchickenpress@gmail.com. We can start there, probably the easiest way to get me, and we can talk further. So anyways, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We will be back right after this break. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Over the past 6 years, we've brought unapologetic, progressive, activist media to Pennsylvania and beyond. We've helped hold those in power accountable and shine a light on some amazing activist work. We've broken national stories and established a reputation as an aggressive, independent media site. As newsrooms close and traditional journalists lose their jobs, hard-hitting investigative news suffers. If we care about our democracy, we have to find new, sustainable models of journalism. And frankly, no one's going to do it for us. After the Trump election, we dug in even deeper. Thanks to some longtime members, one-time donations, and a shift in other resources, we brought on more writers and started paying them. Now we're doubling down and want to expand our infrastructure and pay our writers even more. We need to invest in our media if we have a chance to resist the unprecedented assault on democracy, working families, women's rights, and our planet. History will remember the choices we make today. So take a minute to become a member of Raging Chicken Press. For as little as $5 a month, the price of a local craft beer or a cup of coffee, you will be supporting homegrown progressive journalists and media activists. Go to ragingchickenpress.org and click on the Support and Membership tab to become a member. Leave a one-time donation or learn about other ways that you can help. We don't have billionaire backers. Keeping progressive activist media going strong depends on you. Thank you for all your help and support. Keep up the fight. Welcome back to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. It's time for Last Call. We'll wind up this day. I think Sean and I have kind of fairly exhausted ourselves here. I certainly have, that's for sure. But I could not leave the day without having at least a little kind of upside in the end. And you've heard me talk about this one before, and I won't spend a whole lot of time on it. Well, maybe a little bit, but this weekend is it's a big weekend, folks, because Star Trek Discovery premieres Sunday night on CBS, right? So Star Trek Discovery, Sunday night on CBS. Sunday night on CBS at 8:30, I believe, is when it premieres. And I'm going to be watching it. So I hope you'll be watching it too. And I guess it's been funny because the show launch there's been a lot of pushback from, again, these kind of right wing, kind of like especially white supremacists, or not white supremacists, but conservative, let's say, folks who don't like the fact that this new series is really foregrounding women and minorities, right, kind of in leadership and key roles in it. And I found this is interesting. Ahead of the premiere, Rolling Stone has got this big article on it. Who wrote this article? Rolling Stone's article by Chris Chafin. Chris Chafin is kind of writing in Rolling Stone, and I didn't know this until just now, because I don't spend a lot of time reading about entertainment stuff. But so apparently this is a show that has started and stopped several times in production about when it was going to be released. It was originally supposed to come out last January. It didn't. Then it was moved to May. It keeps on getting postponed, but finally it kind of moved forward. One of the directors of the co-executive producers left and went for another project. But when they came back on, it completely changed what happened. And I'm going to want to read just a little bit of this. Is like handed the reins. This is the new team, right, after the former executive producers and folks left. They started to envision a slightly darker version of the usual Trek stories. There's a simple reason for that: Donald Trump. The Trump phenomenon was, quote, front and center in our minds, Harberts admits when talking about the post-Fuller production process. Quote, we felt like it would be interesting to really look at what's going on in the United States. He mentions that among the show's antagonists are an ultra-religious and violent Klingon faction whose rallying cry, Remain Klingon, is intentionally reminiscent of Make America Great Again. It's a call to isolationism, the showrunner says in reference to the slogan. It's about racial purity. It's about wanting to take care of yourself. And if anybody is reaching a hand out to you, it's about smacking it away. That was pretty provocative for us. And it wasn't necessarily something that we wanted to completely lean into, but it was happening. We were hearing the stories. We're living in monstrous times. Let's not dance around it, Jason Isaacs says in a separate interview. Quote, hideous, divisive times when all sorts of stuff we thought were long buried is coming to the surface and being encouraged by the most powerful people on the planet. We are living in disgusting times. These are producers and people working on freaking Star Trek, Sean. So I'm even more intrigued than before. I mean, it's like a longtime Trek fan. I was like, and I knew that they were doing some of this stuff, but to hear it that explicitly stated really took me back today, I have to say.
I guess you'll be watching it. I'm glad you'll be watching it.
I will indeed. The one thing that sucks about this, and there's been a lot of people complaining about this, CBS is launching. It's going to be 8:30. I guess there's a football game on. It's following that football game.
I was going to say I'll be watching football.
Yeah, well, you just stay right there. You don't even need to move, right? You just keep the channel where it is, Sean, and watch it.
I do have Comcast, and I can watch TV over my computer now. So
see, you're already set up, man. But they have, so basically what the problem though is for a lot of people is that it's the original show is the premiere is going to air on CBS following it, and then on CBS All Access, that's their little kind of like for pay app kind of thing, which a lot of these people are going in this direction. Episode 2, the second episode is going to be available immediately after that once the premiere clears, and then the show is only going to run on the CBS All Access stuff. So that's got a lot of some people pissed off because they don't want to spend extra money for it, and I get it. I for one am going to suck it up, and I'm going to pay for it and I'll watch it. So when my birthday comes, I'm going to ask for gift cards to CBS All Access so I can watch this thing. So look, it's going to be interesting. I'm really fascinated to see what directions they're going to take this, especially if they're explicitly thinking about this being in dialogue with what's happening right now in our country.
I know. I think we need more cultural stuff to start. We really need to get going back to art and media being critical of the times.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm waiting to see that, maybe we're going to get some brewers at some point, which we're going to start throwing into that too as well. I mean, where are the kind of like, dump Trump beers right now? That's what I want to know. Where are the kind of like, light the streets up beers and things like that? But they're coming. But anyway, on the beer thing is like, I understand you were telling me before that Pizza Boy had a huge kind of like, beer release week.
Yeah, and coming up in the future too. So something just popped on the Facebook feed. They're going to be releasing a legendary pumpkin soon.
Ooh.
So
I know how much you love pumpkin beer.
Their legendaries are usually like an IPA with milk, lactose added to it, and then some sort of fruit. So this should be interesting. A pumpkin IPA, possibly.
Yeah, notice that Sean is kind of like glossing over the pumpkin thing because he is a pumpkin hater by trade.
They're going to be doing a pumpkin sunny side up and canning that sometime soon.
For real?
Yeah.
Oh man, I definitely got to check that out.
Yeah, they're releasing in cans. They just released this week. Beer called Hop Tart, and that is a dry hop sour with some sort of red grapes in it. And they just dumped everything in it: steed, stems, everything. And the beer fermented all the parts. So like pretty much dissolve the stems, the seeds, the skin, and the grape juice or the grapefruit. So that was good.
You've had it?
Yes, I have. It's nice.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
There's a new sour on. Another one.
Wow.
It uses Magora, scorpion peppers, and passion fruit. It has a little bit of heat to it.
I'm already salivating as you're talking about it. I'm going to say, I'm sorry for the long pause, but I'm like, oh man, I'm just kind of playing that over in my head. Oh man, that would be nice.
And a couple of IPAs. One with one called Hawaii IPA with passion fruit, guava, and orange added to it. And there's a second one called Peach Around that has a peach IPA.
Peach Around. That reminds me of something.
It's like that line from Full Metal Jacket when they're in.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Yes, it is just like that, isn't it? Well, I was psyched. I got this week's. If you remember, this is kind of one of the projects that I wish that I just could have kept up with, and maybe another time we'll have to come back to it. But we had one episode of it. It was the we were trying to do like the tap room or things like this. We're doing basically our brewcast. And I had an episode with Matthew Bieniek, who's basically, who does homebrew, and he actually put together that first episode. He was getting prepared to do this Belgian strong ale, and he actually named it a Raging Belgian, right? So that's just for the context. But we were supposed to come back again after throughout the process, and it just the time just wasn't there, and too much stuff going on. We had a thing like a strike and thing, there's a lot of stuff going on.
A strike happened.
Right, exactly. But just yesterday, I got a nice little delivery of 4 delivered, it's hand delivered, right? I work with his wife, of 4 new Bieniek Biotech brews, and I'm going to hold off on talking about them until I actually have them both. I'm going to have the first one as soon as we get done recording this, because I need to come down a little bit, so I don't have a heart attack, right? But so I'm psyched for that. So I'll look forward to that next week. I will be previewing or post-viewing, I guess, reviewing, right? Bieniek Biotech brews, the Raging Belgian, and more. So good. So anything else, Sean, you got going on for the good of the order? What are you doing the weekend?
Working.
Yeah, working for a living.
Working.
That's it? Just working?
Yeah, watching football on Sunday.
Yeah, Star Trek, you mean Star Trek. Star Trek. You're watching Star Trek on Sunday. Oh, God, folks. So I don't even know what my weekend looks like. I know it's going to be a reading. I'm going to do some more writing, staying on top of this story. I'll talk about it Kutztown today. So, maybe, I don't know, by next week, Sean, maybe we're going to find out if Paul Manafort is actually going to be truly on the hot seat. We'll find out if we're actually still here and there's been no nuclear-armed conflict.
I'm not on the West Coast anymore, so it's...
Right, exactly. So what are you just saying? Like, hey, as long as it's not me, I don't care.
I got mine.
I got mine. Right? I'm drinking a sour and I'm not bombed. It's great, but crazy. Anyways, Sean, I guess have a good weekend, man. And let's I don't know, just keep it going for next week, and let's hope that we've got some good news to report. Again, remind everybody if you can contribute to this PayPal site that will kind of help defray the cost of the Cobra funds or the Cobra payments for the adjunct faculty member at Kutztown University. We'll have information, or you have a link there with instructions about how to make that happen. If you can do that, I'll thank you personally. I thank you personally right now. So that'd be really helpful, and let's hope that this person is kind of makes it through. All right, so
I know I'm looking at the I'm looking at a bunch of the shares on the Facebook page. It's shared about 115 times from our Facebook page, and a lot of people are making mentions that they normally don't do stuff like that, but they are making contributions to this PayPal account.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, and and I think the fact that I'm looking at did a quick check on the site stats, and we're kind of like over 3,600 people have actually been reading this and kind of engaging with it on our site. I think that's a really, at least it's promising that the word is going to get out, and hopefully that enough pressure is brought to bear that this person is going to get taken care of, because really that's what matters.
And usually a good day for us is like 400 or 500 hits when we're churning out work. Yep. Maybe 1,000 or 2,000 depending on what we're doing.
Yep.
It's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. We're already at 3,600 hits.
Yeah.
So
you remember back in the day, we were kind of when we really in like a strong stride. One of my mottos was 5 by 5, right? The idea about 500 by 5, by 5 o'clock. Just because we went through a period that we were just churning stuff out, and that was always great. So we were kind of hitting that kind of consistently. But again, it's like we see this up and down. I mean, Sean had a piece a couple weeks back was like 20,000+ in a day. I mean, it was crazy. So
ended up with 60,000 overall after it was all said and done with, going after the white nationalist.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I should take this opportunity after talk about that website traffic. I want to give a shout out to our web host hosting service folks at Flywheel, right? We actually have our site hosted on Flywheel. That's where we kind of locate it all. They've been outstanding, and so we were trying to gauge early on when we switched providers. We kind of switched from Bluehost to Flywheel, in part because our tech guy Seth, he kind of knew these folks. Kind of like what they were doing, and so they really did some really quick and fast WordPress hosting. So we said, okay, we'll give them a shot. We were able to bring our costs down, right? And the speed has been phenomenal. And what we've been finding is because we're getting these increasing spikes of traffic more frequently, they got in touch with me and basically were like, hey, look, I just want to let you know this is not uncommon for news sites, right, that you see that you're going to having these spikes kind of up and down, but we want to make sure that that you're going to be able to keep your speed and keep your site up. So we're going to have these discussions about how we're going to have to change our plan to kind of up it a little bit. But why I want to say thanks to them, right, is because normally like what had happened in some other hosting situations we've had before, when we had those days when our traffic just spiked like this, our site would crash.
For hours,
right? And it was, there's one time that we were hacked, and there's nothing you can do about that. But other times it was just about the server stuff. The folks at Flywheel, what they did is they said, hey, look, the traffic is increasing, right? So what are we going to do? They opened up more space to make sure that the speed was up, because that was their primary concern. So thank you to the folks at Flywheel for doing that, and I'll be in talk with them next week to make sure that we give back to them too as well. And if you're looking for website hosting, I can't say enough about those folks. You go to our site, ragingchickenpress.org. There's a banner on the top for Flywheel. Check them out, especially if you have, again, you're using WordPress. They've been absolutely phenomenal. So pretty cool. All right, man. I think we should get out of here. What do you say?
Yeah. It's been about 2 hours. Another 2 hour bomb.
Yeah, no, exactly. So yeah, thanks everybody for kind of tuning in today. It's been quite a show, but hey, what are we gonna do? When things happen. So this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Sean, I'll see you next week, man. See ya!
Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and